Você pode ver lá, você pode descer.
Achou?
Entendeu?
Viu que eu fiquei mais perto?
Vai acompanhar então?
É isso aí mesmo. Não, continua no mesmo lugar. Isso. Só pega meu rosto.
Faz tipo uma vista, estou olhando pro
Assim? Olha pro horizonte.
Greetings from Brazil. I am speaking to you from a windy Rio de Janeiro. I try to film in the sun, but unfortunately the past week has been quite windy and quite rainy, which is weird because the first 2 weeks I was here it was very sunny. But better done than perfect, so let's get on with the topic of today, which is gold versus silver and why you should invest in gold rather than silver. I titled this video Invest in Gold, Not Silver, but that is more of a generalization because as with almost anything when it comes to investing, prices matter. If the price of gold is extremely high and the price of silver is extremely low, then yes, investing in silver might be a good option. But I'm just talking about gold versus silver considering current prices and prices of gold and silver historically, because they have been pretty stable over time, or at least pretty predictable over time and not extremely volatile. So with rising inflation, there has been a renewed and surging interest in investing in precious metals to protect your wealth and to find things that can store your wealth, because with depreciating currencies, your wealth will depreciate in value if you just keep it in cash. And this is something that is happening all over the world when it comes to inflation. In the United States, inflation has reached almost a 40-year high, and other countries are experiencing the same problem with inflation. Inflation is surging and people are finding ways to protect their wealth. So let's get on to this video about gold versus silver, and we will first start by looking at gold. Let's first look at how gold is when it comes to its properties. So first of all, gold is virtually indestructible because of its chemical properties. It is also very difficult to be synthesized and almost unable to be synthesized, which means that unless you are willing to spend a huge amount of money and effort to create gold in a laboratory, it is extremely difficult and expensive to do so and not worth it, because just buying gold from existing gold supplies is much cheaper. And this is in contrast with even other valuable items like diamonds, which can be synthesized, and synthesized diamonds do exist and can be profitable, unlike synthesized gold, which is extremely difficult to create, and until recently it was considered almost impossible. So because it's indestructible and it's unable to be synthesized in a lab, gold is basically a very good store of value. The only gold we have is the gold we have mined, and it is extremely durable. It's not something that can corrode. So it's an extremely good store of value, which is why gold has been used throughout history as a valuable form of currency. Other things about gold is that gold is very rare. If you compare how rare gold is with silver, gold is almost 19 times rarer than silver in the Earth's crust. And gold mining is actually very difficult and expensive to do, which makes gold very resistant to inflation. You can't really flood the supply of gold with more gold from mining because it's so difficult to mine gold, and because gold is so rare. And also gold has inherent value when it comes to jewelry, aesthetics, and other commercial and industrial demand for gold. Now let's look at silver. So silver, like gold, also has inherent value. It is used in jewelry, aesthetics. There's also commercial and industrial demand for silver. But it is much easier to mine and refine silver than it is with gold. It is not as rare as gold because silver is 19 times more abundant than gold in the Earth's crust. And unlike gold, silver does corrode and can be consumed in industrial processes. So even though silver is relatively durable compared to things like copper or other less valuable metals, it does corrode, is not indestructible, and that is why gold is better as a store of value than silver. But going back to how gold is rare and more difficult to mine, if you look at statistics, you can see that gold supply is 60 times that of annual gold production, which means even though the prices of gold are very high and there is a huge incentive to mine gold because of its expensive price, it is very expensive and difficult to do so, which makes it difficult to flood the supply of gold with more gold. When you compare that with silver, however, the silver supply is only 5 times that of annual silver production. And like I said before, that is because silver is much easier to mine and refine, and silver is also more abundant, but also silver is something that can be consumed in industrial processes. When the price of silver rises, that also encourages more silver mining, and since silver mining is easier, that would further inflate the silver supply, which brings the price of silver back down. And I should also add that an annual production that is 20% that of total supply is something that is comparable to paper money and modern currencies, which experience a lot of inflation. So silver is something that also can experience a lot of inflation when the price goes up, and you have more incentive to mine silver, which isn't difficult to do compared to gold. When it comes to resisting inflation or supply shocks, gold is a clear answer because its supply is not easily manipulated. If you look at history, that supports gold as the more valuable and the more wise choice when it comes to storing your wealth. Looking at countries with a gold standard and comparing them to countries that used a silver standard in the past, countries that used the gold standard were more monetarily stable and more economically successful than those on the silver standard. For example, Britain was the first country to adopt the gold standard in 1717 under the direction of Isaac Newton, who was the warden of the Royal Mint. And Britain became extremely rich and built the largest empire in history during that time after they adopted the gold standard. Obviously, it's not just the gold standard that was responsible for that, but having a very stable monetary system really helped them when it comes to developing their economy, building their state and country, and building their empire, which was the largest in world history. Other European countries also followed Britain's example and adopted the gold standard, which was a very stable monetary system and lasted until World War I, when they really needed to expand the money supply to fund their war efforts. But before World War I, the European countries were very prosperous, and a large part of this was because of having a very stable monetary system. Now let's compare this to countries that used the silver standard. So China and India were both countries that used the silver standard, and China used it until the early 20th century, and India used it until the late 19th century. So because silver was easier to mine, less rare, and much more susceptible to supply shocks, this was a big problem in terms of the stability of their monetary systems. And when you compete against countries with gold standards, that can be a huge detriment to countries with the silver standard because their monetary systems are being undermined by stronger and more robust monetary systems that use the gold standard. If you look at the period from 1871 to 1898, and 1871 was when Germany moved to the gold standard, which was the last major European country to move to the gold standard, you can see that the value of China's silver lost 78% of its value, and the value of India's silver lost 56% of its value. In conclusion, gold is a much better investment than silver. It is a much better and more permanent store of value because it is indestructible and it is rare and hard to mine, which makes it resistant to supply shocks and inflation. And it is more valuable commercially. Like I said before, it depends on the price when it comes to investing. If the silver price is very low or the gold price is very high, then maybe this thesis won't hold. But considering current gold prices and current silver prices, and considering how prices of gold and silver have been in the past, I would say gold is generally a better investment than silver, and you should invest in gold rather than silver. So thank you for watching, and I hope this video helped. I know a lot of people are concerned about inflation and want to protect their wealth from being devalued by inflation, and they're looking at investments like gold and silver. And this video, I hoped, help you see the comparison between gold and silver, and generally speaking, I recommend gold over silver. If you found this video helpful, give it a like, comment your thoughts, comment on what you want me to discuss next, because I'm here to help you succeed in business, in your finances, and in life in general. Also, make sure to subscribe for more helpful content, and because it helps me in the algorithm so that we can spread this message. And I'll see you guys in the next video.